Well, from ongoing water issues to regional weather trends, California and Nevada have a unique agricultural landscape, and we want to get an update now on conditions as we check in with the American Society of Farm Managers and Rural Appraisers. Our good friend Tony Toso joins us with the latest from his region. Always a pleasure, Tony. Well, the California chapter recently held their annual Outlook Conference, focusing on agricultural land and commodity trends throughout California and Nevada. Can you tell us maybe what you took away from that conference? What were your thoughts on what they were addressing?
Sure. It was a good conference, very well attended, had people from all over the country actually there this year. And California is a big player in the ag market. So the discussions primarily centered around water concerns and ongoing market corrections that we've been experiencing here in California. And the mood was pretty sobering. Water issues have had a huge impact on our investment decisions, that type of thing. When farmers and ranchers are looking at what they're doing with their land, water is the 900-pound gorilla in the room. Yeah. And we've been seeing market corrections up as high as 50%. I heard from one gentleman that I spoke with there at the conference, with most of that being in the 10 to 30% range is kind of where everything seems to be shaking out at. Most of the typical crops that we see grown here in my area of California, like almonds or alfalfa, walnuts, pistachios, that type of thing, continue to face challenging commodity prices. And those are being met with high input costs, labor, fertilizer, fuel, those types of things. Water costs are really having an impact on profitability for our growers. So these inputs, they continue to exceed commodity prices. And so it's been a struggle the last couple of years, and it's being reflected in what we were learning at the conference. In addition, higher interest rates, those have been impacting farmers and ranchers as well as they struggle to meet their debt service requirements. So when you're looking at buying a ranch or you're buying a farm, when you go from 4% on up to 8, 9%, makes you think a little bit and sharpen your pencil. We've been seeing some price improvements for crops like walnuts or almonds, but the thought behind that's kind of, we're losing less money this year. So it's still a struggle, and that was reflected in the conference.
It's interesting. It really seems, we sometimes like to take the country, dissect it into regions, but it seems like everything that you're talking about, the entire region is really dealing with. But especially out there, it seems like water really a hot button issue, and there just isn't enough. What are they saying, and what did you hear from the conference as to try and make a resolution, or what can be done to make sure that our producers have enough?
Right. Well, water has always been a big area of discussion and for fighting out here. In recent years, we've had legislation passed called the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. We call it SGMA here in California. That's impacted ag tremendously out here. And we're looking at estimates showing that about 500,000 to 1 million acres of permanent planting ground could be fallowed here in the near future. That's huge for us. And then another interesting statistic that I learned in the conference is about 80% of our water goes to the environment. And of that, of the total pot of water that we have, about 50% is what we call uncaptured. Now, that's water that's basically flowing through the system. It's not stored, it's not diverted, basically goes out to the ocean and it's gone. The other 50%, the captured water, of course, about 30.5% of that also goes to the environment. And it's used for in-stream flows, wetland habitat restoration, and groundwater recharge, just to name a couple of those. Ag gets about 15% of that 50%, and domestic users get about 4.5%. So you can see the rub there between ag, environment, domestic uses. That's why we have such a battle over our water resources out here. And this legislation, the SGMA legislation, it's going to continue to impact our ag into the foreseeable future.
Yeah, sounds like something definitely needs to be addressed there. By the way, I always thank you for joining us. I know you're always so busy, and I commented before we went to camera that you have a lot of color. You said, hey, I've been out there on the operation, calving. So how are things going before we wrap? Everything good?
Oh, sure. Yeah, lots of grass. We've had some great rains. The cattle look really good, so we're getting ready for marketing season, and just enjoying these prices we're seeing for our calves, and looking forward to a good spring and and going on into the summer.
Great stuff, Tony. Always wishing you the best. Thanks for your time today. Tony Toso with the American Society of Farm Managers and Rural Appraisers.